So the Willow TV series has been canceled on Disney Plus, which should come as no surprise to anybody who watched the Willow TV series on Disney Plus. Somehow, showrunner Jonathan Kasdan and his team at Lucasfilm managed to take the 1988 film starring Warwick Davis and Val Kilmer and turn it into a CW style teeny bopper romance drama with magic. I don't know what on earth they were thinking. I only know that the show was so bad that it would have been a miracle for it to get a renewal. The fact of the matter is that Willow is just not popular enough to survive on the name alone. I love the 1988 film. I love it more than most movies I've ever seen. It's one of my favorite movies, okay? And I was very optimistic when I learned that it was also Jonathan Kasdan's, one of his favorite movies. He's about my age. He's the son of Lawrence Kasdan, who helped write the original Star Wars trilogy. They wrote the Solo, a Star Wars story movie together. And it just seemed like, well, here's a guy about my age, fan of the movie, experience in Star Wars, experience with Lucasfilm. Maybe this will be an awesome show. Maybe this will capture at least some of the magic of the original film. And instead, it was tonally so different, it barely even resembled the original movie. Other than Warwick Davis playing Willow, it basically wasn't. There was almost nothing at all linking the two together. And not just in terms of story, there just wasn't the feel of that movie. The movie is an adventure movie, right? It's an action-adventure movie with a lot of comic relief, both from the Brownies and from Madmartigan, but also that's dark and a little gritty. It has a cool, fantasy theme that's a little different than, the Tolkien universe. I know a lot of people said it's derivative of Tolkien, derivative of Lord of the Rings, but really it has a lot more of an Asian influence, and it's just a little less stuffy. The original film has a mixture of British and American accents. It has a few more sort of modern aphorisms. It's just a little more modern in a lot of ways. But they took that and they ran with it so far in the show that you had characters that used the word like we do now. Like, oh my God, what that princess was like such a bitch. Just weird modern language added all the time. A lot of the characters, especially Saoirse's kids, Saoirse and Madmartigan's kids, felt like they could have just been taken off the street in Los Angeles 2023. Whereas, even though Kilmer's character in the original movie talked, in an American accent and had, it didn't feel like he was taken out of Middle Earth, but somewhere maybe in between. They went too far with that stuff. They misunderstood the tone of the original movie, but then they also did so much more. They screwed up the costumes. You have costumes that feel like they could also be taken out of a modern set, like printed T-shirts and dungaree hats, and just so much costume laziness. I don't know what to call it. Laziness, oversight, or just misunderstanding of what made Willow great. The costumes were really great in Willow, actually. And then there was the music. James Horner wrote a beautiful soundtrack for the film, and they have little hints of it here and there. But the real problem with the music in the show was adding all these modern rock songs, and not just to the credits, but to actual sequences within the show itself. Ultimately, it just felt like Willow didn't really have an identity, right? It just didn't feel like it had, it had very little connection to the film, and instead of sort of expanding on that world, they do expand on that world, but instead of expanding on it in a way that sort of fit with the original tone and thematic and narrative beats that we get in the original movie, it just felt like it did its own thing completely, to the point where it might as well have just been its own show, divorced entirely from Willow. Maybe people would have liked it better then. The other thing that I think was really a big miss in terms of the writing and how Kasdan and his team put this together is it really felt like they were targeting teenagers. And I think the target audience for Willow is kids and parents. I think that it's a family, like the original is a family movie, right? So like you can sit down and watch Willow as a family. Young kids will enjoy the brownies and the swashbuckling adventure. Older kids will enjoy the banter between Willow and Mad Mardigan and the sword fighting, and parents will just enjoy all of that. And especially now, the people like me who are fans as kids are now parents. So it's perfect to target my age group and the age group of children, including teenagers, but not exclusively teenagers. The problem with like this, they had five and then some characters who were about 20 years old, right? Late teens, early 20s. Essentially, you know how in movies and stuff, teenagers are always played by like 22-year-olds. That age group. And there was love triangles. And it was this whole like, oh, we've got, you had the blonde princess and the redhead girl and the brunette princess. And you had the prince and you had the other prince. And that's not Willow. Nothing about that is Willow. And so you're targeting this demographic, apparently, a teenage demographic. And then the kids don't want to watch that stuff. That's not interesting to them. Grown-ups roll their eyes at that stuff. And the real dirty secret here is that I think a lot of teenagers roll their eyes at that stuff. It's just too cheesy. It's too corny. Teenagers want to watch older stuff now, especially. So you could have had a show that targeted kids and their parents. And you would have had, like Mandalorian, right? Kids and their parents. Something lighthearted, but with some darkness. Something with adventure and humor, but not too much of that modern dialogue. Good costumes. I mean, they did the magic special effects really well. There are things I liked about it. I liked Boorman. I thought that Elora was actually really well cast. They just kind of wasted her character. She kind of got drowned out by all the other characters. The cast was just too big. There's just so much wrong with this show. It's like, how do you mistake what made Willow great so fundamentally when you claim to be a fan of it? And that's what I don't understand. Like, if I was making this show, I would have done almost nothing. Nothing that they actually did in this show. Almost nothing. A sequel to Willow should be another grand swashbuckling adventure with a tight cast that isn't just a bunch of 20-somethings. You'd have Willow, you'd have Elora. Clearly, those two would be important. I love Boorman. Imagine if they'd written a show around those three. Maybe one other character or characters they meet along the way instead of just having everybody there at the beginning. Like they meet Christian Slater's character later on, but then he's just thrown away after one episode. It's not like Willow the movie started out with the whole party together. Willow sets off with Elora, and he meets the brownies, and then they meet. Well, I guess he meets Man Mardigan first, but he teams up with the brownies. Then they encounter Man Mardigan later, and later Sorsha joins the group. Here we just had everybody together at once. Off they go. All almost the same age except for Willow. I just don't understand, guys. I don't understand what they did to this. And I'm sad, not because it's canceled, but because this was it. This was the one chance we had for a Willow revival. And it was pissed away. Partly on this agenda that seems to drive everything in not just in Disney, but in Hollywood lately. And I'm totally all for diversity, but I just don't think that this actually captured what makes a cast of characters diverse. It felt far more uniform than the original Willow, even though they had more, dark-skinned actors involved. Not that Willow didn't, but the show, has a little more racial diversity, but then it had no diversity in terms of age. Almost all the characters were the same age, and they almost all were kind of the same personality. Like, diversity has to be more than just than colors of skin or gender. It has to be a diverse cast of characters that are all unique in some way, right? But yeah. Anyways, I don't know. I'm just rambling. I'm just kind of pissed off. I'm sad because I did want this so badly. I wanted this more than new Star Wars. I wanted this more than new Lord of the Rings. A Willow sequel of some kind has been a dream of mine since I was a kid. And when we finally got it, I guess I feel betrayed. I feel like any number of actual fans of this movie could have done a much better job than what we got. And it's so strange. And it's such a bummer. And I'm just bummed out. This is it. It's over. No more Willow? Maybe that's a sign from God that we actually need new stories and to stop dredging up the past and like these, it's like these creative necromancers raising the dead, and shockingly most of these reanimated corpses aren't that good. It's not good magic. We've known that for a long time. That's black magic. It's bad. All right, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, mourn with me in the comments. Peace.